It's sometimes very difficult to come across a contemporary piece that you have never heard before. And really, this was the case when I first approached Bernstein's Age of Anxiety. I think it made a huge difference for me to when I just listened to it and was attracted to the sound of it or the music behind it. And then a bit later, I went and read about what inspired Bernstein to write this piece. And it really made a world of difference to me. Bernstein was very passionate about the work of a poet, Auden. And after years of studying this very long poem, Age of Anxiety, Bernstein decided to write a piece about it. Bernstein really identified himself with the characters in the poem that Auden had written. So he had reflected himself in the piano part and utilized the orchestra around him as kind of the world that he has to face, the world that he was living in. It starts out with the prologue. We are introduced to four very depressed voices. These are four people sitting in a bar on 3rd Avenue of New York City during World War II, and they're discussing who they are, where they're going, what their life means, if they have a soul, if they're going to follow a destiny or death, or what is the meaning of all this. As the piece progresses, these people are getting more and more intoxicated, and they start really dreaming about or reminiscing about their past first in the 7 variations that follows the prologue. And then after these 7 variations, we enter another set of 7 variations called 7 stages. This is even more variations under even more intoxication. This part starts after the piano has a descent into even deeper subconsciousness. This set ends up being, it leaves audience feeling completely hectic. It's just this big mess because everyone's talking, everyone's searching for answers, and they cannot agree on anything. And they just start screaming, and it just ends with a big bang. And after that, we enter a stage called the Dirge, which is these 4 people kind of start getting very depressed that they can't find any answers, and they start complaining that they don't have a figure that can rescue them from this state. By this time, these drunken people should really go home and sleep, but they don't feel like it, so they go to one of the people's houses. These 4 people are 3 men and a woman. And these 4 people go to the woman's house, and love blooms between the woman and one of the guys. And they have a big drunken party, and everyone's dancing around. And that's when we hear a really very charming jazzy melody. And piano starts after we hear the celesta kind of beating the very jazzy rhythm. And piano joins, percussion joins, the harps join, and it's a very jolly party. After this state, in my opinion, I think that's the point where everyone just falls asleep. And the piece takes much more serious tone, and we start hearing really rich lines from all the strings, and then piano has this solo part all by itself. And after that, we start hearing something that we have never heard in the piece, which is really kind of like the guiding light, the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that's the point where I think Bernstein tells us that's when one has found faith at the end of their life, at the end of the stage, end of the piece. And it becomes almost like a chorale, and I think that's the most moving part of the piece because so much of the piece has so much chaos in it, and towards the end, everything comes together in this glorious melody, this fullness, richness, and almost holy tone comes out, and you are. I was completely overwhelmed when I first listened to it, and the piece leaves you in this. It ends very big with a lasting, very big chord, and it's a tutti, and it's very satisfying, and it's like you have reached the answer that you've seeking for all your life. So I think it's orchestrated and planned extremely well, and I think it reflects Bernstein's sincerity towards this poem, and talking so much about what he thinks of himself, putting his whole self into the piece. So I hope this resonates to all the audience that comes to hear it.